I wasn't looking for trouble. That's what I keep telling myself, like some kind of prayer that might rewrite what happened. All I wanted was to spend a quiet Saturday morning with Elise. That's it. No agenda, no suspicions. Just coffee and conversation while the rain tapped against the windows of her apartment. We'd been dating for 3 years, living in separate places, but spending most weekends together. It was comfortable, steady, or so I thought. Our friends called us the inevitable couple, the ones who'd eventually get married without much fanfare, because it just made sense. We were Jason and Elise. It worked. That morning, I arrived earlier than usual. She wasn't expecting me until 10, but I woke up restless and thought I'd surprise her with bagels from that place on 7th she loved. The doorman knew me, gave me a nod as I passed through the lobby. I still had her spare key, the one she'd given me last year, with a shy smile, like it meant something more than just convenience. When I unlocked her door, the apartment was quiet except for the shower running. I set the bagels on the counter and made myself at home, brewing coffee while scrolling through my phone. Nothing unusual. Nothing that should have made my stomach knot the way it did when I heard her phone buzz on the coffee table. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But the notification lit up her screen, and from where I stood, the preview was impossible to miss. Chris, about tonight? Can't wait to see you. Dinner at 8, then we can... The rest was cut off, but it was enough. My hand froze midway to my coffee cup. Chris? She'd never mentioned anyone named Chris. And dinner tonight? Elise and I had plans to watch a movie at my place. The same thing we did most Saturday nights. I should have walked away. Should have respected her privacy, waited for her to emerge from the shower and asked her directly. But something dark and instinctive took over, like my body knew what my mind wasn't ready to accept. I picked up her phone. The screen had locked again, but I knew her passcode. 1026, her brother's birthday. We joked about how it was too obvious, how she should change it. Now I was grateful she never had. The full message appeared. Star Chris : about tonight. Can't wait to see you. Dinner at 8. Then we can head back to my place. No need to rush home this time. My throat closed. This time. Not the first time then. I scrolled up, scanning weeks of messages. Flirtatious exchanges, inside jokes, plans made and kept. Photos I couldn't bring myself to open. The timestamps matched nights when Elise had claimed to be working late or having drinks with coworkers. Nights when she'd texted me brief "miss you" messages while apparently sitting across from someone else. I set her phone down precisely where I'd found it, my movements mechanical. The shower had stopped. I heard her humming from the bathroom, that little tune she always hummed when she felt content. The sound that used to make me smile now made me sick. I considered leaving, just walking out, deleting her number, vanishing from her life as suddenly as this Chris person had appeared in mine. But something kept me rooted in place. Maybe pride, maybe shock, or maybe just the need to hear her say it. When she emerged wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, she froze at the sight of me. "Jason," she said, surprise flickering across her face. "You're early," I nodded, tried to smile. "Brought bagels." "That's sweet." Her eyes darted to her phone on the coffee table, then back to me. "Let me get dressed." She disappeared into her bedroom, and I sat there wondering if she could tell that I knew. If the knowledge was visible on my face, like a bruise. When she returned in sweats and a t-shirt, she seemed relaxed, normal. She poured herself coffee, chatted about a work project, asked about my week, all while this secret hung between us, invisible to her, suffocating to me. I waited until she'd settled beside me on the couch, her legs tucked under her the way they always were. Then I said it, casual as discussing the weather. "So what are you up to tonight?" She took a sip of coffee, didn't blink. "Nothing special. Probably just catch up on some work. Maybe call my mom." The lie slid out so easily, so practiced, that for a second I doubted what I'd seen. Then she reached for her phone, checked it quickly, and set it down again. Her thumb had instinctively cleared the notification. Evidence erased. "What about you?" she asked. "I thought we were watching that movie, the one you wanted to see." "Oh." A flicker of something crossed her face. Annoyance? Panic? It was gone too quickly to read. "Right, I forgot about that." "You forgot?" "I've been distracted with work. But yes, movie night, of course." I studied her, this woman I thought I knew better than anyone. The gentle curve of her jaw, the small scar above her eyebrow from a childhood fall, the way her eyes never quite landed on mine when she was uncomfortable. All so familiar, yet suddenly she was a stranger. "You can cancel if you need to," I said, voice steady. "If you have other plans." "I don't have other plans." But her hand moved to her hair, twisting a strand around her finger, her tell, the nervous habit she couldn't control. "Elise." Something in my tone made her look up. Really look for the first time that morning. She must have seen it then, the knowledge in my eyes, because her expression shifted, her defenses visibly assembling. "What's going on?" she asked. And there was an edge to her voice now. I could have confronted her directly, could have shown her the messages, demanded an explanation. Instead, I said something that surprised even me. "Good luck on your date tonight." The panic on her face said everything. Complete unguarded shock followed by immediate, crushing guilt. Her coffee mug froze halfway to her lips, then lowered slowly to the table. She didn't deny it, didn't ask what I meant, just stared at me with wide eyes that had suddenly filled with tears. "Jason," she began, then stopped, as if she hadn't planned for this conversation and didn't know the script. "How long?" I asked, and I was surprised by how calm I sounded. Inside, I felt like I was crumbling. She looked down at her hands. "A few months." Months. The word hung between us. And tonight was going to be what? "How exactly were you planning to cancel our plans?" "I was going to tell you I wasn't feeling well." She spoke so quietly, I had to lean in to hear her. I had it all worked out. Of course she did. Elise always had a plan. It was one of the things I'd loved about her organization, her foresight. Now I realized those same qualities had made her an efficient liar. And all those other nights? When you were supposedly working late or out with Sarah, she flinched. Sometimes I was working late. But not always. "No," she whispered. "Not always." I waited for more. An explanation, an apology, something that would make sense of the last few months. But she just sat there, tears sliding down her cheeks, silent. "Why?" I finally asked. "Just tell me why." She brushed her tears away with the back of her hand. "I don't know. It just happened." "Things like this don't just happen, Elise. You made choices. Every time you texted him, every time you lied about where you were going, those were choices." "I know." She looked up at me finally, and her eyes were pleading. "I know it was wrong. I felt stuck. Like we were going through the motions. And Chris was new and exciting and..." "Spare me the details," I cut in, unable to bear hearing his name again. "I don't need to know what he offered that I didn't." "It wasn't about you," she said, and somehow that hurt more than anything else. That she could dismantle 3 years of my life, and it wasn't even about me. I stood up, suddenly needing space. The apartment felt too small, too full of her. "Were you ever going to tell me?" She hesitated. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." My voice had hardened. "You weren't. You were just going to keep lying, keep seeing him behind my back, keep coming home to me afterward." "Jason, please, please what? Understand? Forgive you." "I don't know," she cried, standing too. "I don't know what I'm asking for. I just know I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed, a harsh sound I barely recognized. "Well, congratulations on failing spectacularly at that." We stood facing each other, the coffee table between us like a border. She'd stopped crying. Now she just looked tired, defeated. And I realized with startling clarity that part of her was relieved to be caught, to have the weight of deception lifted. "I should go," I said. She nodded, made no move to stop me. I walked to the door, my body on autopilot. As I reached for the handle, she spoke again. "I'm sorry, I know that doesn't fix anything, But I am. Her voice was small, fractured. I didn't turn around. Enjoy your date. I closed the door quietly behind me and made it all the way to the elevator before the weight of what had happened crashed into me. My legs nearly buckled. I leaned against the wall, breath coming in the shallow gasps, while a couple with matching grocery bags politely pretended not to notice. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the sky remained gray and heavy. I walked without direction, passing familiar landmarks that suddenly seemed foreign. The cafe where we'd had our first date. The bookstore where she'd read me poems on a lazy Sunday afternoon. The bench where she'd cried in my arms after losing her job last year. All these places now tainted, overlaid with the knowledge that while these memories were being made, she was already slipping away. My phone buzzed. A text from Elise. I know you hate me right now, and you have every right to. But please talk to me. We need to talk about this. I stared at the screen. Another message came through. I canceled with Chris. I told him I can't see him anymore, as if that made it better. As if the betrayal was erased by her sudden attack of conscience. I turned off my phone and kept walking. The days that followed passed in a blur. I called in sick to work on Monday, something I never did. Spent the day in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations and looks and moments, searching for signs I'd missed. Had there been clues? Red flags I'd ignored? She'd texted and called repeatedly. I hadn't responded. What was there to say? The facts were clear. She'd been seeing someone else for months, lying to my face, making a fool of me. Every I love you had been tainted. Every intimate moment compromised by her divided attention. On Tuesday, I forced myself to return to work. My colleagues noticed something was off, but I deflected their questions with vague mentions of a stomach bug. I sat through meetings, nodded at appropriate times, even contributed ideas that must have made sense because people wrote them down, all while feeling utterly hollow inside. It was Sarah who finally cornered me in the break room on Thursday. Sarah, Elise's best friend since college, who apparently had no idea about her friend's double life. What the hell is going on with you and Elise, she demanded, blocking my escape route. She's a wreck, won't tell me anything except that she messed up and you won't talk to her. I studied Sarah's face, searching for signs of complicity. Had she known? Had she covered for Elise's lies? You really don't know, I asked. Sarah crossed her arms. Know what? I believed her confusion. Sarah was many things, but a good actress wasn't one of them. She's been seeing someone else for months. Sarah's jaw literally dropped. What? Number that's Elise wouldn't... She did. I pushed past her, unable to bear the pity that was replacing shock in her eyes. Ask her about Chris. I heard Sarah curse under her breath as I walked away. By evening, Elise had texted again. Sarah came to see me. I can't believe you told her. I should have been the one to tell her. As if that was the issue. As if her friendship with Sarah was the casualty here, not our relationship. I texted back for the first time. And I should have heard about Chris from you. Guess we're both disappointed. She called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Whatever she had to say, I wasn't ready to hear it. The weekend loomed ahead, empty and daunting. Normally, I'd be with Elise, doing the comfortable couple things we'd perfected over 3 years. Farmer's market on Saturday morning, coffee and crosswords, maybe a movie or dinner with friends, Sunday brunch and a walk if the weather was good. Instead, I cleaned my apartment obsessively, rearranged furniture, purged my closet of shirts she'd bought me, books she'd left behind, the spare toothbrush in my bathroom that was exclusively hers. I put everything in a box, taped it shut, and slid it under my bed. Out of sight, but not gone. I wasn't ready for gone. On Sunday night, there was a knock at my door. Not a text, not a call. An actual physical presence demanding acknowledgement. I knew it was her before I checked the peephole. She stood in the hallway, hands shoved in the pockets of her coat, looking smaller than I remembered. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. You need to talk to me eventually, she said. Do I? Jason, please, I've been calling and texting for a week. I broke things off with Chris. I've been trying to make this right. Make what right exactly? I leaned against the door frame. The lying, the cheating, the fact that our entire relationship for the past few months has been a sham? It wasn't a sham, her voice cracked. What I did was wrong, but what we had was real. Is real. Real, I shook my head. You've been sleeping with someone else while telling me you love me. You were planning to see him tonight, and you had a whole lie prepared for me. That's your version of real? She flinched at the harshness in my voice. Can I come in? Please? I don't want to have this conversation in your hallway. Part of me wanted to shut the door in her face, but another part, the part that had loved her for 3 years, that had imagined a future with her, needed closure. I stepped aside. She entered cautiously, as if expecting traps. Her eyes swept the room, noting the changes, the absence of her things, the rearranged furniture, the evidence of her systematic removal from my space. You've been busy, she said quietly. Had to fill the time somehow. She nodded, accepting the jab. We stood awkwardly in my living room, suddenly strangers in a space where we'd once been so comfortable. I made a terrible mistake, she finally said. The worst mistake of my life. And I know I can't take it back or undo the hurt I've caused you, but I need you to know that I love you. That hasn't changed. Funny way of showing it. I know, she took a deep breath. I got caught up in something that felt exciting and different. And instead of being honest with you about my feelings, I made choices that hurt you deeply. I have no excuse. What I did was selfish and wrong. It was the apology I'd been waiting for, yet it felt hollow. Words that came a week too late, after she'd been caught, not before. Why him, I asked, the question that had been burning in me for days. What did he give you that I didn't? She hesitated. It wasn't about comparison. It wasn't that he was better in any way. It was unknown. Novelty, maybe. The thrill of something new. My feelings for you had become so comfortable, so secure, that I took them for granted. So I was boring, predictable. No, she said quickly. You were stable, reliable, safe. And those are good things, Jason. Those are the things that last. But I got distracted by something shiny and new, and I made the worst mistake of my life. I studied her face, searching for sincerity. She seemed genuine in her regret. But then, she'd seemed genuine for months while living a double life. So what did I know? And now you want what exactly, I asked. Forgiveness? To pick up where we left off? I want a chance, she said simply. A chance to earn back your trust. To show you that what happened with Chris was a terrible aberration. Not a reflection of how I truly feel about you, I laughed. A short, bitter sound. And how am I supposed to believe anything you say? How am I supposed to trust you when you've proven exactly how good you are at lying to my face? She had no answer for that. We stood in silence, the distance between us far greater than the few feet of hardwood floor. I should go, she finally said. But Jason, please think about what I've said. About giving us another chance. I know I don't deserve it, but what we had, what we could still have, is worth fighting for. As she moved toward the door, I noticed something on her wrist. A bracelet I'd never seen before, silver with a small charm. It caught the light as she reached for the doorknob, a detail so minor yet so telling. Even now, as she pleaded for reconciliation, she wore another man's gift. Nice bracelet, I said quietly. Her hand flew to her wrist, eyes widening with realization. She fumbled with the clasp, as if removing it now would erase its existence. Jason, it's not. Goodbye, Elise. She left without another word. The bracelet clutched in her palm. I locked the door behind her and leaned against it, feeling exhausted yet somehow lighter, as if her visit had crystallized something I'd been struggling to accept. There was no going back, only forward, without her. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt my routine, work, gym, occasional drinks with friends who tactfully avoided mentioning Elise. I declined invitations that might put us in the same room. Blocked her on social media, not out of spite, but self-preservation. I didn't need to see her posts, her photos, whether she was still wearing that bracelet. Sarah reached out once, apologetic and awkward. I had no idea, she said over coffee. I swear, Jason. She told me she was working late those nights, or with her sister. I would have told you if I'd known. I believed her. Sarah had always treated me like family, not just her best friend's boyfriend. It's not your fault, I assured her. You weren't the one lying. She fidgeted with her cup. She's miserable, you know. Knows she screwed up the best thing in her life. Sarah, I said gently but firmly, I can't be her redemption arc. Whatever she's feeling now, it doesn't erase what happened. Sarah nodded, understanding. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this with a lot more grace than most people would. Grace wasn't what I'd call the hollow feeling in my chest. The way I still reached for my phone to text her when something funny happened. The dreams where we were still together and happy, but I appreciated the sentiment. A month passed, then two. Spring turned to summer. The sharp edges of betrayal began to dull, though the wound remained. I started dating again, cautiously. Coffee meetups that rarely led to second dates. I wasn't ready, but I was trying. Then came July, and with it, Michael's wedding. Michael, my college roommate, who had asked me to be a groomsman long before Elise and I imploded. I couldn't back out, even though I knew she would be there. She and the bride had worked together. They were still friends. I rented a tux, practiced my smile in the mirror, prepared small talk that wouldn't reveal the chaos of my personal life. The ceremony was beautiful, held in a garden at sunset. I stood with the other groomsmen, focusing on my role, on being there for Michael. I didn't look for her in the crowd. At the reception, I managed to avoid her for nearly an hour, navigating the room like a game of chess, always 3 moves ahead. But eventually, inevitably, we collided at the bar. Jason, she said, and hearing my name in her voice after so long was like a physical touch. Elise. I nodded politely, as if she were a distant acquaintance. You look nice, she did. Her dress was deep blue, her hair shorter than I remembered. No sign of the silver bracelet. You too, she said. How have you been? Such a mundane question for such a complicated answer. Fine, I said, busy with work. She nodded, accepting the banality of our exchange. We stood in awkward silence as the bartender prepared our drinks. The music changed to something slow and melancholy. I miss you, she said suddenly, the words tumbling out as if she couldn't hold them back. Every day. I took my drink, grateful for something to do with my hands. Elise? I know, she interrupted. I know it's over. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I needed you to know that I regret it more than anything in my life. That losing you was the worst consequence I could have imagined. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation, the calculated play for sympathy. But all I saw was genuine regret. It didn't change anything, but somehow it mattered. I've been seeing someone, I said, not to hurt her, but to establish boundaries. It's new, but it's going well. A flicker of pain crossed her face, quickly masked. I'm glad, she said, and I believed her. You deserve to be happy. So do you, I found myself saying, and meant it despite everything. Just maybe work on the honesty thing first. She laughed, a small, sad sound. Believe me, I've learned that lesson. The music swelled. Couples filled the dance floor. In another timeline, we'd be among them. Her head on my shoulder, my hand at the small of her back. But in this reality, we were just 2 people with shared history, standing at a bar, about to move in different directions. Well, she said, raising her glass slightly, to Michael and Kate. To Michael and Kate, I echoed, clinking my glass against hers one last time. She hesitated, as if wanting to say more, then simply nodded and walked away. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of sadness and peace. What we had was over, had been over the moment she'd chosen to lie. But standing there, I realized something important. The anger had faded. The betrayal no longer defined me. It was just something that had happened, a chapter closed. Later that night, as I drove home alone, I thought about trust, how easily it breaks, how painfully it rebuilds, about honesty and its cost, about the way one person's choices can alter the course of two lives. I thought about Elise's face when I'd said those words. Good luck on your date. The panic, the shock, the realization that her carefully constructed world was collapsing. That moment of pure, unguarded truth between us had been our last. But most of all, I thought about moving forward, about the possibility of loving again without the shadow of suspicion, about building something new with someone who understood the value of honesty from the beginning. It wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, leaves fault lines that never quite disappear. But as I drove through the quiet streets toward home, I felt something I hadn't in months: hope. Not for reconciliation with Elise, that door was firmly closed, but for healing, for the chance to take what I'd learned and build something stronger next time. The night air was warm through my open window, carrying the scent of summer. I turned up the radio, letting the music fill the car. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges, its own moments of doubt. But tonight, driving alone under a sky full of stars, I felt for the first time in months like I might be okay after all.